Welcome to Launch Today, the podcast focused on what it takes to get your new business to $1 million in revenue. From marketing tactics to incredible guest interviews, we focus on sharing behind-the-scenes insight from masters in their field. If you want to grow your revenue for your startup or business, you don't want to miss today, because today's guest is a triple threat, an operator, an educator, and an investor. We're privileged to have Scott Markovits with us today. Scott is a seasoned startup builder who's helped grow a startup from 0 to $1 million ARR. As a fractional chief of staff / COO and embedded leader, he coaches founders to navigate the complex landscape of startup growth. With deep expertise in go-to-market strategy, growth hacking, and scaling marketing, Scott has been a guiding force behind numerous successful exits. His approach blends data-driven insights with a keen understanding of what it takes to drive sustainable growth. Join us today as we dive in to Scott's wealth of experience in translating complex business challenges into actionable strategies, fostering innovation, and mentoring the next generation of startup leaders. Scott, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So I think that headline number is the first big one, right? I talk about how I've grown a bunch of startups from 0 to 3 million plus. I've never gone anywhere near 100 million. And you, obviously, that's a heck of a rocket ship. Talk me through some of these key milestones and inflection points on that journey, if you would.
Absolutely. So I joined as hire number one at an early stage company back in 2012. It was a company called InVision, building a product that has created what we now know today is digital design, UI, UX design. All those kind of keywords come from InVision and everything they built, unlike some other people may want to think, but originally a lot of it came from InVision. And we did something which is the essence, I think, of all most successful startups. We solved the problem. If you were a designer, whether at an agency or internally, and you were trying to show your designs off to an external stakeholder, right? The old school way was you had a bunch of PDFs, and you held up like a PDF number 4 and say, okay, imagine like moving your mouse over to there and clicking. Okay, now find page number 7. Now move over here, and now just imagine that comes over there. So InVision built a prototyping platform to help make clickable interactive prototypes. So a designer could hand over with something that looks like the actual workflow of a product without ever having to write a line of code. And thankfully it hit off very well with designers, grew pretty rapidly early on, and was, again, what we created today in UI UX design all came from those early foundings. I think the initial kind of moments where at first we were going very much out for small and mid-sized development agencies. That seemed to be like our sweet spot. Who's doing design and development? It's right, these agencies are doing it, and cold emailing all of them and trying to get them engaged to try out the product. And we got a number of them, but I think the real traction early on started through just individual designers working in whatever various company, whether large companies like Google or Airbnb, and who use the product and were like, holy crap, where has this been our entire life? And then pass it to teammates, and then grew from the ground up. I know it was exciting to see. Another, I think, memorable moment was when we raised our Series A round. The lead investor did a heavy amount of due diligence into our customer support and Twitter feed of saying, what is the interaction? What is the love that you're getting back from customers? Do your customers love you and love the interactions and the relationship you build with you? And thankfully, we did that very well. And a lot of our growth in the first 18 months came off of word of mouth of Twitter. So we did a great job there engaging and through contests and swag and a lot of other things. And customer support was always, hey, we wanted to solve your problem. I've been doing customer support as well for 20-something years. At the end of the day, your job as a customer support person is to make the user happy and whatever that needs to be done. And that is the way that you do it. And then definitely milestones as we've hit other funding rounds and 1 million users and 10 million users and whatever numbers kind of grew beyond that. But for me, the most exciting things were definitely the early stuff, which is my bread and butter and where my most interest tends to lie.
Awesome. Many early stage startups struggle with what InVision nailed really early on. And I remember the early days of InVision as well. I, like a lot of people, eventually made the switch to Figma from InVision. But I remember the first time you were able to make a clickable prototype and you were like, whoa, Whoa, that's magic, right? That
Mm.
that product market fit of being able to just induce a feeling of wonder in someone. That can be hard.
Yep.
Do you have a framework or approach that you used or that you recommend people use now to validate and figure out what is that magic thing I have to get in front of my users as fast as I can?
Yeah, I think that the first place to start is solving a problem and finding a problem, right? Is it something that you personally run into in your own life, whether personal life or business life? Is it something with the productivity or with kids or whatever the hell it may be? Do you feel some pain point in your life? If you find something, hey, you know what, this is a real pain and this is really frustrating in whatever, again, personal or work, you ask yourself, hey, I wish there was a solution, right? Go take, is there a solution for it? If there's not, or if there isn't the ideal solution, then start asking other people who are similar to you, whether it's, say, I'm a dad, so you talk to other dads, or a designer, or a podcast host, or what have you. Speak to other people in that space and say, hey, I have this challenge. Anybody else run into that? Get the feedback. And if you see, yes, people, hey, we're definitely having a trouble of finding the right podcast platform that could do this and could do that and could do the other thing. Okay. Then you ask a couple more questions and really validate that, yes, it's a real painful problem. Yes, it's a real pain in the ass that in the old days to do a podcast, right? The only way to edit it was I needed an outsourced team where I had to go into Apple, was it the GarageBand, and I had to edit the music bars and something misaligned. I had to figure that out versus no tools now through Descript, where I think we're recording this podcast. It's just, hey, look at the type. And if Scott said something dumb or stuttered, you just highlight that and delete it out. And great, you've solved a huge problem, which is a fantastic point. Then you validate, hey, again, are you willing to pay for this? And in most cases, when you're solving some pain point, people are absolutely worth and interested in solving a pain point. And then once you've done that, again, try to validate that, get up a landing page, I'm a huge fan of spending, depending on what the product is, building something on no code, right? You don't need to go raise, how many founders like, oh, I got to go raise, $1 million seed round to go build something. I'm like, no, you don't. Go spend a couple hours or a couple days on some no code platform. Just build a basic MVP that solves the problem simply, right? The greatest example probably of our time they'll ever see is Uber, right? If you ever try to get a taxi in any urban area during rush hour or on a Friday, Saturday night, it was a nightmare. I remember those days living in New York City. We'd wander, we'd have all these strategies to try to get where the taxis are going to pick us up. And Uber comes along and says, hey, instead of you going to walk to find a taxi, you just press one button and a taxi comes to you. So not only is solving the problem simply, but just doing it, hey, it's just a button. Like press the button, that's the product. And not having to build a whole platform and have to do all the things, solve said problem, super duper simple, and just get it out there, right? Get it out there, validate it, get people using it, get people to get the feedback, find if you're on the right track. And if you are, okay, then maybe take some time and invest in building it the right way, especially if you're getting some traction, because no code is definitely not built for scale and for real products. But why go spend months building something and tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, pitch decks and all that nonsense, where you can just get something so quickly up on a no code type platform, get it up in hours or days, get in social media. So for me, I think that's the biggest piece is, again, validate the pain point. Hey, is this solution work for you? Get an MVP out there, super easy. Validate that it works, and then go from there. But so, I've spoken to 2,000 plus founders over 10, 11 years. I can count on maybe double the size of hands of how many people have actually done that versus just, oh, the world needs another team collaboration
I know,
tools. We
I
need
know,
another
I know.
Slack in this world. Yes, of course we do.
That's what we need. There's Slack, but do it green. That's the differentiation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I teach at Founders Institute, and probably 70% of the startups that I see there, I'm like, you could have this product working in MVP with no code by Monday.
Yep.
Why don't you? And they're like, I don't have yet, because I don't know. I'm like, okay. Particularly places like, what's the MakerPad, where they
Yep.
walk you through how to build basically anything. And so you're like, great, I just follow the steps. I have the app. If people will pay me,
Yep.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And then I get founders who are mad that investors won't write checks anymore for pre-product companies.
Yes.
I'm like, the bar is so low. Last year, so 2023, a buddy and I, we launched 4 different software products in the month, one a week,
Yep.
in the shortest month of the year, to show what could be done, to see if marketing would scale it. And one of them
Yep.
did scale a little bit, and we sold it. It's fine. But the the speed at which two guys, neither of whom is a dev,
Yep.
can say, let's put together something, launch it, get it out there. And then if it's get traction, that's when you go say, hey, can I get some money? It's
Absolutely.
different than people think it is.
Yeah, especially these days, from forget about investment with a product. Now you can barely even get an investment without traction. And of course, you ask the VC, the investor, what does traction mean to you? And they have no freaking clue. Does it mean number of users? Does it mean revenue? Okay, revenue, is that $100 MRR? Is it 1,000? Is it 10,000 MRR? Like, what does it exactly mean? And nobody knows that. So the fact that, forget product, and I remember the early InVision days, how many people came into InVision in the early first couple of years, said, hey, I raised a funding round based on a prototype, because they were blown away that I built this product with no money. Holy crap, how did you do that? They had no idea it was a prototype. They just thought it was this real live product that they had built. And yeah, wow, you did all that by yourself with no money? Here, take our money. Yeah, unfortunately, those days are long gone.
Yeah, the innocence of those days.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting. I think you brought up a good point, though. A lot of founders keep talking to investors, chasing traction, some ill-defined metric.
Yeah.
You're an investor as well as somebody who goes like, how do you get founders to change that conversation from the investor always saying, I want more, to getting to be something that's definite enough where you can say, hey, I'm going to go here. And then either the investor will finally say yes or they will not say, or they'll say no. Okay, cool, then we can part ways, but not just I keep hoping.
It's for myself only writing small checks. I'm not a proper investor who has millions of dollars fund behind me. Again, my methodology is very much simple. Like I'm very much old school, right? We'll go back to the early 10, 12 years ago. Your pre-seed round was up to 500K to go build a product. So the only thing you had was the team and the problem. So if I believed in the problem you were building or you're trying to solve, and I believe in the team that you had some type of relevant experience in that, hey, that's what I was investing in, right? And you weren't raising millions of dollars at that point. You're getting, especially for an angel investor, 30K, 50K, something like that. And again, for me, that's at a stage like that early, that's really what it should be. Yes, I think these days where you can build something on no code, if you can, yes, get a handful of users, and again, whether you're freemium or what have you, if you can show some interest in the product that people are not only signing up, but actually using it on somewhat of a consistent basis, like for me, that's okay. That's golden. But for other investors who are looking for the 100x unicorn, whatever, the whole VC system and startup system is broken to the point it can't be fixed. It
So
needs to be thrown in the garbage. Okay, here's version 2 or 3, whatever version we're on now, and going back. So I'm very much of a huge believer in the of bootstrapping companies, of raising one round from either family and friends or angel investors, and also the idea of the unicorn is dead. I was very much in the days of building and growing InVision. We had to build multi-billion-dollar brands. This was the way to do it, and this is what you had to do it. And then seeing what happened to InVision, other companies,
yeah,
it's so much easier to build a unicorn than it is to sell one. It's almost impossible these days to sell a unicorn. And now I'm very much of the advice that I give to founders. And I had 2 conversations earlier this morning on this point. Go build a product, sell it as quickly as you can from 20, 30, 40, $50 million. Go do it again. Go sit on top of some ecosystem. Hey, you have a bunch of CRM tools or sales enablement tools or whatever the hell tools it is. Go make that whole ecosystem better, 2x, 3x better by your functionality. And then one of them is going to wake up and say, hey, we want to be able to sell that ability that our product is now 2x, 3x better than all the competitors. So we're going to go scoop you up for, again, some change. No, not $1 billion exits or anything like that. But hey, we're going to come buy you to make our product better. And I think, going niche, I'm very huge fan of like niche products, whether it's a specific region or specific industry. I was speaking with a founder about a week and a half ago who was building a tool just for the pest control space. It was like one of
there you
these
go.
meeting recording tools. There's a million and one of those. Meeting recording and summaries and AI, blah blah blah. And they were doing it specifically for pest control because whatever they do is they walk around, they take audio notes, and then they want to take that audio note and then make a proposal and give feedback and all the different things. And right, that takes time of trying to remember it up. Hey, if you can just talk while you're walking around and looking stuff, and it creates a proposal for you, hey, that's fantastic. If you do it with some niche market that needs a product like that, again,
Yeah,
that's a $30 million business right there. Go build that
that's
and
brilliant.
have a nice day.
That's brilliant. Yeah, yeah. There's one of my favorite examples of niching down for new businesses is there's a lady I interviewed on Twitter almost 3 years ago now, where she's in the real estate space, and what she does is she buys large apartments and then renovates them into small, I think it's
Mm.
16 feet by 8 foot rooms with high-speed internet and a lot of electrical outlets. And what she does is she rents them out to OnlyFans content creators, and she only does this in downtown Manhattan.
Yeah.
So only downtown Manhattan, and then only to women who are doing online content, adult content creation.
Yep.
But it's a safe space. There will be no cameras watching you except for the
Yep.
ones that you already know as the content creator, like all this stuff. Doing 2 million a year on the craziest, tiniest niche of a niche.
Yep.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. You solve a problem really well that no one else
Absolutely.
wants to solve, and there you go.
Absolutely. And that's so many of the problem. Some of those things like they're not sexy. Who cares about pest control? And nobody wants to do anything for pest control. So nobody's building any products for pest control. And so if you go build a product, talk about first in market and second market, da, da, da. There's nobody building anything for pest control because nobody cares, and there's no billion-dollar businesses in pest control. So no VC-backed company is ever going to go build a pest
Yeah,
control meeting recording tool. So you can come in, you can own that space, make revenue, and hey, have a great life running a business and probably on a small, very small team.
yeah. That is one of the most successful startups I mentored last year. They make a sensor that you install in septic tanks. Same
Yep.
thing, right? Oh no, it's yucky. It's septic tanks. Yeah, but they're still using dipsticks to measure things in septic tanks, right? It's
Yep.
a stick with lines drawn on it. And someone went, "What if we went forward 3,000 years from then? What would it look like?" Cool. All right. I think that brings us to a good point, though, right? Going into a niche works really well. Solving a good problem works really well. You've got to figure out the right way to go to market. That's what I talk about at crowd teamers all the time.
Yep.
You've got your own view, right?
Yep.
How do you go from I've got my product, I've got some initial validation, right? People want this. Now I need to go from zero to not 100 million, but at least a couple million. What steps do you go through?
So the next piece, it comes down to pricing. So I have, for me, five things fall into the what of go to market, problem market fit thing. So again, number one's problem, number one's the market, because sometimes they change. For a product could change in a couple of years. The third one for me is pricing. The fourth one for me is UI UX. The fifth one is hiring the right team. So for the moment, we'll focus right on pricing. VC backed companies, because you need to be a unicorn and you need to pay back the investors, you need to charge enterprise prices. And that tends to isolate how many people can buy you. Like I had this experience just today using for one of my clients, we're using a CRM, $30 a month, right? Very affordable, great. Very limited use. We have one kind of real user salesperson. I'm like the ops back end person. We have an admin kind of doing some of the lead qualification. Okay, great. And looking for an automation functionality where if there was no activity within the past 14 days, like even just step one, create a reminder, a task for that salesperson. Hey, please reach out to this person. There hasn't been any feedback. Forget about emailing the person automatically. Just set a task reminder. So going to that one functionality feature set that we needed was going from a $30 a month price plan to a $450 price plan for that one point. Apparently, this company has now kind of changed their SMB pricing. So I had a call with an SMB sales team today. Went through the use case. Here's what we have really one kind of user who needs this. So yeah, we have new pricing, the seat license, blah blah blah. Okay, now it's going to be, and we can in September we're changing the pricing, but I can give you a deal now. It'll be $250 a month. So I'm like, okay, so you want us to 8x our cost for a
For
product
one
that we
feature.
for one feature for a product that we don't use heavily, right? We're not a software company like that. Does any company ever expect to make any revenue on this? Who's going to buy that? What company like size is going to, yeah, sure. I have 8x of money laying around for this one tool amongst all the other tools. No. So I'm a huge fan of Canva's approach, right? Canva, fantastic tool, big user of Canva. Like their entry level product or their first paid level product is like $12.50 a month, something like that. And their second one is maybe 25. So if I'm using it, I'm content creating, I'm doing all those things, right? $15 or $25 is easy enough for me to pay. Like pricing should never be an obstacle for bringing on a product. Another example that I've fallen in love with to the kind of idea of solving a problem versus something else. I posted today on LinkedIn about pricing can be a differentiator. Historically, I was also on that side. No pricing, no way. That's never going to differentiate. These days, I'm more leaning to that side. So there's a company called Tally. They're another form builder. This was always typically the one of two cases I always gave, right? One was the chat tool, the team collaboration tool. The other one was a form builder, because I've mentored probably 15, 20 of these companies who are building forms. So I'm like, sweet God, what do you need another one of these tools? But Tally is like the notion of form builders. So they
Very
launched with two
much, yeah.
people, yeah, as a freemium product, right? 98% of the product is free to use. And if you wanted those like extra level features of connecting the forms to your domain, or company level features versus like an individual, something like that, there's one price plan. It's $29 or something like that. And I think some
Yeah.
point earlier at the beginning of the year, whenever I heard a podcast or some recording they did on YouTube, they had like passed $54,000 in MRR. So probably at this point, if they're on the same trajectory, they're probably close to $65,000, $70,000 in MRR by charging $29 for 2% use case. That's pretty damn good. So for me, I like focus on pricing. And that's the biggest thing I can say is do not make pricing an obstacle for the adoption of the product. If it's something that's personal use, understand, right? A person's paying out of their own pocket. If it's a good product, maybe $5, $10, $15, whatever it is. If it's a company plan, okay, 59, not 99, depending on when it is and how many people are using it, but don't make it crazy. I'm also very much of a fan of the movement. Again, I think many of the most innovative ideas are coming out of Jason DHH from 37 Signals, of this pay
Yeah.
once, right? The way that software
Yep.
worked in the past, very much of where I think much of software should work again in the future, where the whole SaaS model monthly thing makes no sense to me. Unless you're a life or business critical tool where I couldn't do a job or something in life without you, I'm not paying you every month. I don't even care if it's $5 a month. Like, I'm an avid-ish daily runner. I run 5-6K every day. I use Strava. I'm not training for a marathon. So yes, it would be nice to know my heart zone rates and all these things. Great. But I'm not paying you $10 a month just to be able to see like that data. I'll pay you $10 once. Shit. Sorry for the language. Like, I'll happily pay you that $10 for that one-time use case. But I'm not paying you. Like, it's not that valuable. It's not valuable enough to me. The biggest advice I can give is, getting to that $1 million is, don't make price the obstacle for getting there. Make it, again, whether you're on the B2B side or B2C side, make it so people can adopt your product. And if you are somewhat, it could be like a B2C, or even like the bottom up funnel approach. I think back when we first connected, I think we spoke about the bottom up versus top down. If you could sell your product provides value to a single salesperson or product person or whatever it is on a team, even if they're paying out of their pocket and you're solving a problem for them, salesperson would spend $50, $100 to double their sales. A product person pay whatever it is to improve like the pipeline and things like that. So again, make sure you start like a consumer side product pricing that's more friendly to an individual, even on a team, or they're outside of a team to do it. And then when you get into money, okay, then you have team plans for multiple users and like your SSO and your security and all the other stuff, which is totally irrelevant to any person using the product. But when you get into teams, it's more relevant. So for me, I think that's the biggest starting point is, right, don't make pricing an obstacle for getting to that $1 million that you need.
Such an interesting point. Most people don't talk about pricing as a big part of your go-to-market. I would note, I teach this, and I've talked about this before on Crowd Tamers. Pricing is fluid, particularly in your first year. It's super fluid.
Sure.
And you've got to be rigorous and adventurous in your pricing.
Absolutely.
For most startups, they're not charging enough. Okay. But that truism is only as you separate out business use case versus personal use case. When I was CMO at Unito, which was a project management synchronization tool, it was like Zapier, but just for tasks. Mm-hmm. And not infrequently, we would get PMs at pretty big organizations sign up on the $15 a month plan with their personal credit card because they found that having tasks automatically be synchronized across different workspaces would maybe shave off 2 hours a day of copy pasting back and forth. And I remember on one customer service call, I had someone burst into tears because it was the relief of, oh my God, I don't have to do this anymore. The worst part of my job went away. If you've got a business tool that people are paying for personally, 100% make that price as cheap as you can. because that's your bottom up sales, right? Once that person is using it,
Yep.
like that particular the lady who burst into tears, been long enough. The NDA's over. That was Washington Post,
Okay.
and it ended up we had a 500 user seat.
Yep.
It's not seat, 500 user instance, right? We spun up a whole big custom. We built it all for them.
Yep.
Huge, I think, 5-figure implementation fee on top of a huge 5-figure monthly because one person was able to put $15 a month to make an integration happen. Right?
Exactly.
Wow, if you get that kind of buy-in, that's really big.
Yep.
So I agree, and I don't think enough people think about that. You need to have that
Yep.
really friendly, easy adoption pricing, unless you're
Yep.
selling straight to enterprise. If you're selling straight to enterprise, you're not a startup because you're only closing one deal a year your first year.
Exactly.
You know, it's all or nothing.
Exactly.
So yeah, I didn't know that Tally was that just completely do everything completely free, whatever.
Yep.
So very not Typeform, because Typeform has VCs to make happy, and Tally, all they
Tally
have to do
doesn't.
is keep two guys alive, right? And they can do okay on 53K a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I want to bring up a similar point on pricing. For a long time, I've not been a fan of the idea of seat licensing. Right now, I know it's been the hot thing, or it's been the thing to do in startup land. I know there is an idea to move to usage. Right? Usage, I think, is much harder. I'm not a fan
Usage is
of.
super hard.
I'm not a fan of seat licensing, and I have arguments with founders all the time. I'm much a fan, especially early on at the beginning, buckets, right? Because especially when you get to a leader who's going to bring out their credit card for a team like plan, in most cases that I've had in my career, that person never touched or seen your product. They know absolutely nothing about your product. So they couldn't tell. So for me, it was very much of here's your team size. Great. But as much as somebody's going to argue, oh, if your first level team, your plan is up to 10 users, and the team has 8 users, a manager wouldn't want to spend an extra 2 people, buy a plan for 2 people they're not using. They have 8 people. Why are they paying for 10 people? I go the other way, right? Where I look at more in the kind of longer term, strategy of the renewal. Okay, fine, you get 8 people. What happens in most software land, especially at startups? You don't have an onboarding process, you don't have a training process, you don't have a customer success product. So maybe half, 2/3 of the people are using the product in the end. Okay, maybe. And the renewal comes along and they're like, oh, what's this product? Okay, let me check. Hey, out of my 8 people, how many people are using it? And maybe 4 people raise their hands. So when a renewal comes around, your salesperson's, oh, could we renew you for the next year for 8 seats? No, we only have 4 people using the seats. So let's downsize to 4 seats. And now you've lost half your revenue because it's easy to do that. But now on the other hand, if you were in that 1 to 10 bucket, or let's maybe put it a 1 up, right? We'll go from 11 to 20 so that the numbers come a little bit easier. So you had 13 people and you find out that 4 or 5 of them are not using the product. So you're only really using 8, 9. So the numbers fall into the tier 1. There's no person in the history that I've ever met who will take away access to a product that you use and that provides you value every day to save money. So yes, there might be 3 people or 4 people who aren't using it, but they're not going to penalize the other 9 people who are using it to drop down to said level. So for me, I try to look at like the longer renewal type side of nobody's downsizing your plan unless it's a huge cut of people because no one's taking access away from the people who are actually using the product. So they're going to be like, okay, well, fine, we'll pay for the extra 2 seats that we're not using or we don't need because we don't want to lose the other people. But when I can just easily drop seats, right? Especially these days when no startup has money and everyone's cost cutting and you got to do everything like that. Churn is a real damn problem, which every company, anyone who's listening would clearly know. So try to make that conversation easier, right? If you're in the 1 to 10 plan and 6, 7 people are still using the product, you're renewing for the same amount, right? They're not going to be cutting down seats and they're not going to be canceling the product because people are still using the product.
The other thing I would throw in there, and this is not like dark witchcraft, people tend to know this, is I also lock away. So I agree with buckets, because individual seat pricing, you're right. Unless you do what Slack does, where Slack is, look, if somebody wasn't active this month, I'm not going to bill you for them. So it gets really easy to grow a huge org that you're not paying attention to.
Yep.
And then sometimes it invoices more, sometimes it invoices less. Like it's floating around. I know my bill's going to be any given month. Okay. Other than that approach, I do like buckets, but I also like feature lock. So you say, hey, there's 5 of you, but you need unlimited this, which is in the next tier up.
Yep.
And then even though they go, oh, there's only 5 of us, but we're in the 11 to 20 plan because we need that thing.
Yep.
And that also gives you a way to both force folks to not downgrade,
Yep.
because if there's only 5, but they're using the unlimited thing, then all right, they're paying for
Yep.
the 11 to 20 plan. That
Yep.
works really well as well.
Yes.
But having a good intro in for that bottom up sales, I like it a lot. Okay.
Absolutely.
Customer acquisition costs are going insane. Speaking as somebody in the performance marketing space, right? Google and Meta have both been going out of their way the last 2 years to make sure that they are extracting the maximum rent they can on their platform for the minimum value that they can provide.
Yep.
SEO has gone completely upside down now, where Google's never mind, we don't send traffic anywhere, we just answer questions badly with AI. So it's really hard to acquire customers. What advice do you give founders for keeping that cost for acquisition under control while still driving growth consistently?
First and foremost, going back to the point we started this conversation, solve a painful problem. If you make a product that solves a pain point, people will get on the rooftop and shout in every place that they possibly can. I've seen it. I've done it myself, where looking for some solution, and something comes along, and holy crap, where have you been all my life? For years and years, I was looking for a to-do list plus calendar. Like, I wanted a tool I was using a company called Friday that was not really built for this, was more for like asynchronous, whatever. You had your calendar, your list of whatever meetings you got that day, and you had your task, and you could just drag things in and make it like, oh, this is fantastic. They closed down. I was for years looking for a tool like this, and nothing existed. And then finally, a company 3-4 years ago called AccuFlow built that. I was like, holy crap. I went on every social media platform. They didn't pay me. They didn't give me anything to do it. I said, if this is you, if you're like me, you've been looking for a tool, I've been looking for this, go and use this product. You solve a problem, it'll solve itself. Like Notion, probably, again, one of the best examples in our time. Notion built a fantastic product, solved a problem. Like, people were shouting on the rooftops of social media. Notion, I know a good friend of mine was the former head of community, who built community from them. Everything came from kind of word of mouth and growth. Again, for the early years, they didn't spend any money on all those different marketing channels. They built a great product. The second piece is treat every interaction you have with a customer, aim to delight them. Because if you can, again, the same thing, it doesn't matter what business you have, right? I'll give you a totally non-software example. A number of years ago, went in Jerusalem, into a gourmet hot dog place, right? American hot dogs, da, 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 da. Some guy
Gourmet
built,
hot dog.
yeah, so some guy built one. Okay, great. Went there, right? And they had the homemade mustard and homemade relish, and it was so good. Was so excited. Great, enjoying it. Sat down, and that guy comes out. The owner comes and schmoozes with us for a couple of minutes. The whole story, and it goes really well with hot dogs, fries, and he brings out a plate of fries. Okay, great. And then he comes back a couple of times, schmoozing, having nice conversation, and he comes back with 2 corn dogs. Have you ever had a corn dog before? Nope. Surprisingly, I've never had one in my life. Okay, here, have a corn dog. That cost him, in expense, $1.50, $2 maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For your CAC. Not only did he hook me for life, so anytime I want a hot dog, that's the only place I'm going. But I went and I wrote a blog post for startups on this whole idea of what kind of the conversation we're talking about, delighting users, of spending $1.50 or whatever it is. No swag, and we can have a whole conversation of swag. Delight your users, because your users, again, will get on social media, they'll get on blog posts, they'll get whatever, and they will talk about you everywhere. I remember going back to InVision, there weren't design conferences back then. If you can imagine that. The only kind of conferences we had were full stack front end. So there was one somewhere we sponsored, forget what it was. We connected a while back with one of the guys who was speaking, right? It was very helpful for us, so forth. Didn't pay him, didn't give him any incentives. He gave a talk about UX in front end, whatever development, half an hour talk. And he mentioned the brand name InVision 25 plus times. So the 400 people who were at this conference sitting and listening to that heard InVision, you have to use InVision, Vision's great, So then, whatever, an hour after that talk was over, we had 300 something signups from that meeting, right? Because we built a relationship with that person. We brought them in, get feedback, that advisory board, whatever it was, and we delighted that person on top of solving a core problem for that. And this guy goes into a conference, right? And he knows what he's talking about. He's the influencer, right? He's the one who's up on stage talking about UX design. So if this guy says, hey, you got to check out InVision, you better believe, right? 300 something people signed up out of 400 signed up an hour after that talk was done, within an hour after the talk was done. So I think the two biggest things, again, not even having, in essence, you don't need to spend money, or the minimal amount of money you spend. Again, solve a problem. And number two, delight your customers. Again, whether it's with discounts and whether it's sweat, like there's so many ways and there's so many things you could do that are super cheap. And again, that keep the CAC extremely low, and it builds relationships, it builds brand loyalty. And that was a large lever for us in Vision at the beginning with swag, right? We gave out swag to free users who we saw were engaged. It cost us $1.30. And hundreds of people took pictures of that swag and posted on social media. And we had a paid one. If you upgraded, we sent you a paid one. That package cost us $1.50. Hundreds of people took that one. We hired one of the best graphic designers to just custom design a logo for a t-shirt. We did a Twitter contest, right? Tweet this message and you'll get a t-shirt. I can't tell you how many people would come into us saying, how do I get one of those t-shirts? I'm like, we give them away. Yeah, just tweet. No, I've been tweeting for 3 months, 4 months, and I haven't won. How do I get one of those t-shirts? So I'm like, okay, you know what? Upgrade to the $25 a month plan. Send me a screenshot of the invoice. Give me your address and your t-shirt size. Sure, I'll send you one. Okay. When I'm telling you 100% of people within 10 minutes replied back, here's the invoice, here's my t-shirt size, here's my address. Can't wait to get the t-shirt.
So you were basically selling T-shirts for basically an MRR increase.
Yeah. So we knew, right, a $25 plan, we knew they're guaranteed to stick around for at least 3 months. So that's $75 in revenue. And the T-shirt package with all the other goodies and stuff cost us $15. So we knew for month one, like within that time, we're guaranteed to know $60 of revenue by sending them a T-shirt. But they're also taking pictures, because we also, hey, take a picture of it, post it on social media. And they did. And then the people in there, how do I get one of those? Right? Because they're all designers. How do I get one of those t-shirts? That's awesome. And the virality was just built in. Why? Because try to delight the users. Could have said, hey, just keep tweeting. Maybe you'll get lucky one day. They said, okay, I'll give you a creative way. And okay, because it was a $15 package. So how many would we have sent for free? But if it was like the cheap $1.50, $1.30, I'm like, just give me your address. I'll send you some stuff, some free stuff.
Sure.
For them to go and again post on social media, build the virality loop in there. Oh, fantastic.
I remember back when MailChimp was fun before Intuit bought them, when they were still a side project from an actual email agency.
Yes.
And they had a pretty cool little shirt with a little monkey on this side. And I did some dumb thing, I forget what, and then got the shirt, and I wore it for like a decade. It only wore out like maybe 2 years ago. I finally wasn't able to wear it anymore. And I posted it when I got it, and then when I would go to conventions in marketing space, I would frequently wear that shirt.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh, that's the MailChimp monkey. And so it's like conversation starters. Yeah, I get that. That's cool. So really working on virality and recommendations / testimonials at a channel, because you're right, those are free in quotes, right? Work still has to go into this. And what can be really hard in a product is you have to build delight into the product too.
Yes.
Because that's what makes it shareable. I remember Asana back in the day, they might still do it. When you complete a task, like 1 time in 5, a narwhal would shoot across the screen, right? You'd be like, oh, that was an unexpected little bit of fun. And then, of course, you complete a bunch of tasks and try to print screen the narwhal to be able to share it to social media. Look, I got a narwhal, right? This sort of thing. Built into the product.
And the beauty there, too, what you're saying, is to build in the opportunity for virality into that moment where, hey, again, I use Honey. The Chrome extension is also one of my examples. But you come across, right, you're trying to save money, you're buying this like Nike sneakers and they're like $150, and all of a sudden you're able through this coupon thing to save $50. Holy crap, this is the greatest thing in my life. As soon as that moment comes through, when you hit checkout and paid, and you save that person $50, and now you send like a message, oh no, confetti, oh congratulations, you've saved $50 on your moment. That's where you build in an embedded link. Share this message. Share, hey, I saved $50. I saved so much cash using Honey, doing whatever. And you get them at their highest moment. That's the right moment. When they hit their aha moment and they're at their high, they've just saved $50. They're so excited. They're getting their Nike sneakers that they wanted, and they got them because if you got them the coupon, the discount, you better believe people are posting, hitting on that, like that Twitter button or LinkedIn or whatever those social media channels are now, and just build those virality, click to embed or post into your onboarding process and into your process. So when you get those confetti moments or those like whatever it is, and people are super excited. And those are the moments. I remember what I got sidetrack here. I used to speak. We used Zendesk for a while at InVision on the support side, and Zendesk was one of our early big users. And I used to speak with their head of design somewhat often, and I used to bitch and complain. I'm like, you have no idea for a support team that gets whatever number of tickets, you have the mythical inbox zero, the myth, the unicorn. So when you actually get to that moment, like like New Year's Eve, like day fireworks. Oh my God, you got there! And what do? You have no new messages. Like,
Yeah, it's very Zendesk is super corporate, but I feel you.
okay, but like even just something like a moment like that where you're trying support teams working so hard and going through tickets, and you finally get to that inbox zero, and you feel like so good in that celebration, and give that delight in the app. But then yes, again, depending on what the app is at that moment, click here, post this, because they're so excited. They got to inbox zero. I can't believe it. This myth that's once in a 20-year career of support, I'm actually getting to inbox zero. Like, you better freaking believe I'm going to post to everyone in my network that I hit inbox zero. Build, and again, what does it cost you? Nothing. It costs you absolutely nothing to build that into your. Okay, maybe a
Except it does
tool.
cost you. It costs you the mindset of being a company that does that, and a lot of
For sure.
companies aren't that company.
For sure. For sure.
And I'm imagining like a Zendesk type company where no. So when I was head of marketing at GOG, a video game company, one year we did every year on our birthday, on our anniversary of the company founding, we do a giveaway. And one year I recorded a gangster rap video,
That's
nerdcore
Can
gangster
you share
rap
that?
video. Yeah, maybe I should. And very nerdy, right? It's all about GOG. And then it was, hey,
Yep.
this was our birthday rap. Write and record your own lyrics.
Yep.
And so people were posting, and this was more than a decade ago, on 240p on YouTube, right? Back when that was
Yep.
the standard resolution.
Yep.
We're
Yep. Yep.
posting and putting up there, and it's a bunch of other nerds like me doing their
Sure.
other nerdy GOG birthday rap. And we gave away like $50 in free games for it, whatever.
Yep.
But we did have, like, we got to the front page of Reddit with that. Because people are like, one, look at this idiot doing this terrible gangster rap. Two,
Yep.
look at my stupid submission to the same thing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's super cool. I love that your advice on this, on reducing cost of acquisition, it is completely different than how I would tell someone to do it, which is, I'm not right and you're wrong, and you're not right and I'm wrong. There are many ways to success.
Yep.
This is an awesome way to get to success if you are this company. And one thing for the founder to think about is, are you the kind of company that can build delight into what you make? Some founders just don't have it in their soul to make a product that delights.
Yep.
Okay, then. Be that person.
Sure.
That's fine. But then don't try and make delight your acquisition strategy.
Yep.
All right, let me ask you. I always like to, we're coming up to the end of our time here. I always like to ask, books are one of the best ways to mind meld with somebody and learn really deeply about something. I read about 300 books a year. I'm a lunatic. And I'm just not even Blinkist. I just read stupid fast. I read 198 books on Kindle last year and about another 80 something on other channels, right?
Amazing.
Okay. Not all business books. I'm not that boring a human. Do you have a book, doesn't have to be a business book, that you think a founder should read because it will do something in their head to make them a better founder?
I'll give two. One is a book called Upstream, where, again, understanding you're trying to solve a problem or build a product for something. Is that problem or whatever you're trying to do caused by something farther upstream, where if you can solve the problem further upstream, you could solve it downstream and may solve some other problems along. So it's not just, how to, whatever it is, something with AI these days, how to get LLMs to be smarter, faster, or something like that now. Whatever you're trying to do, we're building a product for that. but go back to maybe how the LLMs are built or something on the AI code, whatever the prompts are built or something. Go farther upstream and find where the root cause of the problem is. And again, you can solve many different things. The second one is Setting the Table by Danny Mayer. Fantastic book. He's restaurateur, Empire Restaurants. He's the owner of Shake Shack and amongst many other, and probably the most successful restaurateur in New York City, and goes very in depth. So half the book is like his kind of life story. The first half of his year, getting into food and touring and eating and blah blah blah, and the rest of it's how he built his business. But everything he did was focused on customer happiness. Everything that he did, asking, you took a reservation for somebody. Well, oh, you want a reservation for 2 people this day? Is there a special date? Is it an anniversary? Is it a business meeting? Is it this? Da, 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 da? Because if you know these things, if it was an anniversary, they'd come out at some point with 2 cups of champagne on the house. Congratulations. We heard it was your anniversary. Oh, it's a business meeting. Let's put them in this corner over here. And just always looking for the ways to delight, right? And that's why his restaurants have stayed open, right? I think the lifetime of restaurants in New York has historically been like less than 3 years. He's had restaurants open for 20, 30 years and more of them, because such an emphasis on customer delight. And that's the biggest thing for any startup is, yes, first you have to be employee centric, right? Employees come first before everybody. But outside of that, and if you do that, they'll make customers happy, is delight your customers. Are going back to this point, figure out how you can make your customer happy on every interaction, because even in customer support, right? Every customer support interaction is a marketing opportunity. You do a great job, you answer quickly, you do give advice, whatever. I've had multiple people when I was doing customer support some point in InVision. I had at least 5-10 people go on social media. I had the best support interaction in my life with Scott, whatever. Everyone's got to check out InVision. Did that just because I helped them, because I gave them a refund, or whatever the heck the situation was. Like, I aimed for that customer delight. And people, again, because you don't get that all the time. So when you get it, you're like, oh my God, wow, I want to say thank you. I want to shout that out. So I think that's my second book. Again, be very just driven of how you can make your customers love you.
That's a really good point. I would.
What's your book? Tell me what's your top book.
That's a good point. So Tony Hsieh, on your focus here. Tony
Yep.
Hsieh, founder of Zappos. Zappos didn't actually sell shoes, which is weird because it's a shoe
Yep.
company. No, it was a customer delight company. They
Yep.
just use shoes to get you there.
Absolutely.
And his book, Delivering Happiness, goes into a lot of that.
Yep.
He was also he was a kind of a nut job, right? Because he made the whole holacracy of the company, and he was trying to figure out ways to run companies that were less authoritarian.
Yep.
Good for you, buddy. Didn't work out the way he dreamed for it to, but okay. But the other one I would recommend, and I'll give a choice here, depending on whether you want brevity or ease of consumption. The most important thing any of us do is write. All of us, unless you're like a plumber or an electrician, in which case you're not watching this show.
Yep.
People who watch this show, the most important thing we do is write.
Yep.
Writing well is the biggest force multiplier you can have. Either get Strunk and White's Guide to Style, 83 pages, but it is as dry as the Sahara Desert with the Dead Sea embedded in the middle of it.
Yep.
Just as dry as can be. If you want something more approachable, Stephen King's On Writing teaches a lot of the same lessons. It's a much longer book, but it's written by Stephen King, who's a national, worldwide bestseller, and knows how to write something that entertains. Right? Either of those.
Absolutely.
Put the time in to craft better writing skill,
Yep.
and everything else you do in life will be better as a result.
Absolutely. I'll
Scott,
take it.
thank you so much for the time today. You had great insights, and this went into an area all about customer success and delight and how to make your customers want to share you around as a great way to grow your business. Phenomenal insights. I really appreciate it. Everybody, if they want to find you online, where do they look for you?
2 easiest ways. Number one is LinkedIn. Always around there. And second, my website. So it's Scott Markovits, SCOTMARKOVs and Victor ITS and Scott.com. You can reach me in either of those places. And certainly if I'm happy to be helpful to anyone in your community who's listening who wants some insights or some guidance, I'm more than happy to be supportive to the people in your community.
Awesome. And be sure, if you are not, subscribe to the channel because we have more great interviews and more great insights coming every week. Thanks so much. Take care, y'all. Bye.